Alright. Yeehaw. I think that's good. Right? I have to do all these damn workarounds for this. Ugh. I like doing these though. It's definitely been a fun thing for me to do. All that other good stuff. So I'm going to do another one of my favorite franchises in the gaming industry. Hang on a sec. Alright. Anyways, so I've been playing Metal Gear since, Metal Gear Solid back in '98 and stuff. I didn't play the original Metal Gear, or Metal Gear 2 until a little bit later in life and all that other stuff. So, more or less, I'm going to just be ranking everything how I did in my last tier video. Not going to get into like details, developer, blah blah blah, this and this. Just basically my opinion on the Metal Gear franchise and what I have played. But to start, I am going to say Metal Gear Survive, have not played. Acid and Acid 2, I have not played either. Survive and Acid, both games, I don't really consider canon or even anywhere near the universe of Metal Gear Solid. So that's gonna be that, and basically I'm just gonna give my general thoughts on the games, what I enjoyed about them, what I didn't enjoy about some of them, and go from there. And yeah, but I'll start off with the first two Metal Gear games. I've played them both. I mean, obviously they're very old, but for the time, graphics-wise, all that stuff was pretty damn good. The story was pretty damn good for, again, a game made in the 80s. Like, there's not much more you can really ask for. I mean, it had a great story to it. It started off the whole Metal Gear franchise. I mean, obviously you don't find out some plot points until later on in the series, but, and that's how it goes as far as all that goes. But with Metal Gear 1 and 2, I'm going to put them both in C, because like I said, I did enjoy the story on both of them. It introduced a lot of characters. Introduced some characters that we would actually see later on in the series as well, too, even though, your final boss fight for the first Metal Gear is, Venom, and technically dies, so, yeah. But other than that, I mean, they played pretty well for being old games. I'm not going to spend too much time on them because, again, I didn't spend much time on them myself, and I don't go back and revisit those, so, yeah. Same with Snake's Revenge. Never played it, not going to play it, because, again, I don't really feel like it's part of the Metal Gear universe. I mean, there's not much more I can say about that. It's the same thing with like Metal Gear Survive. I won't play Metal Gear Survive. And Metal Gear Acid 1 and 2, I believe, are card games or something like that. So, no real bearing on like any of the story for most of the mainline games and all that other good stuff. So, yeah. So, I'm going to move on. My favorite game in the series, and my second favorite game of all time, it's an automatic S tier. When I was a kid, I used to play this stuff in real life, like with a buddy of mine. He lived out in the country, and when it was wintertime and snowing and shit, we'd pretend that we were in Shadow Moses and all that other stuff, and reenact some of the crap. You know, just being kids. I mean, it was like 12, 13 at the time, so, you know, that's what we did to entertain ourselves. But Metal Gear Solid, to me, the best story in the whole franchise. Great cast of characters. I mean, voice acting, just everything hits the mark with this game. And I really can't see any portion of it being bad. Like, you know, top-down view, yeah. I mean, it's a PlayStation 1 game. Like, what do you expect? You know, that never bothered me. None of the controls never bothered me. I don't have anything negative to say about Metal Gear Solid, because again, it's my second favorite game of all time. It's gonna be an automatic S tier. And probably one of the only few games that I've actually like practiced like some glitches or speedrun tactics with it and all that other good stuff. So, but I mean, probably my biggest gripe with this, and this would probably be my only knock, is the final boss battle with Liquid. You know, hand-to-hand combat in a small, teeny tiny area where even if you don't even get super close to the edge, you still fall off. That is probably my only gripe with Metal Gear Solid at all. Otherwise, fantastic game, fantastic story. Again, voice acting is top tier, top notch, and this is PlayStation 1, you know, era, so you ain't gonna get much better than that. And I really don't have anything bad to say about it. Music's great, sounds great, just everything. Roy Campbell, you know, Naomi Hunter, you know, Gray Fox, you know, every piece of character, every side character, everything just fits perfectly well into Metal Gear Solid, and it is. And I don't care. I know a lot of people say Metal Gear Solid 3's the best game in the series, blah blah blah, this and this. No, it's really not. It's really not. So, yeah, that's my ranking for Metal Gear Solid. So, Twin Snakes, okay, and don't get me wrong, don't hate me for this. I do like it. It's, I mean, it's essentially Metal Gear Solid with, you know, a few different aspects. It's got some stuff implemented from Metal Gear Solid 2, which is nice, like hanging and first-person mode, whatever. However, them trying to basically make it into the Matrix is quite different. Quite different. Again, since it's a remake, not going to spend much time on it because it has a lot of Metal Gear Solid aspects to it. You know, same locations, you're still visiting the same thing. You know, just the over-the-top cutscenes is just kind of crazy and insane. But I still think it's an A-tier game, even if a few things do take a hit in it. But I still like it. I'm pretty sure if I'm remembering correctly, it's been a few years since I've played it, but it also implemented the trank gun for the first time, or for Metal Gear Solid. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a good game. Not much to complain about. I still enjoy it, and all that other stuff. So, but moving on, Metal Gear Solid 2, right? I'm putting that in front of Twin Snakes. I found a more appreciation because I got this way back when it first came out for PlayStation 2. Me and my buddy, the one that I, you know, would play Metal Gear Solid with outside and shit, you know, we got it, and when, because he got a brand new PS1, so he got it, and I went over and we played it together, all that other stuff. You know, no mention of Raiden the whole time, right? In any trailers, anything you see, it's all just Solid Snake. So that's what I'm thinking, you know, 2001, stuff like that, dude. I'm 16 years old. I'm like, okay, cool, Solid Snake again, following his adventures, awesome. You know, first hour and a half, 2 hours, great. I mean, it's a lot of stealth, you know, in the tanker portion of the game. I think Raiden was probably I don't want to say the worst part about it, but to go from Snake to Raiden is a big drop off in my opinion. I've been a solid Snake fan, been a Big Boss fan. You know, I like Raiden. He's good enough, but you know, I don't know. Everything's good about it though. Still, the voice acting, everything. I mean, and again, you're in the Metal Gear Solid, so you're getting your long ass cutscenes, your movie type cutscenes, and all that other stuff. So I mean, I really can't say anything else about that. I still think it's a fantastic game. Still A tier. Rosemary can go die though. I mean, I did not enjoy any portions about her, but I will say, back in 2001, 2002. Me and my buddy, we did fall for Campbell telling us to turn the game console off because we legit thought that like the PlayStation 1 was fucked up. So we're like, oh shit, turn it off. And then come to find out later, no, you're just a dumbass who fell for something that was in the game. But I mean, it also has a lot of taglines that you find today too. You know, with social media and all that other stuff. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 2 and this is, 20-some years ago. And it's quoting stuff for now. I mean, it just shows you how well done Metal Gear Solid 2 and its themes is. Like, again, voice acting is top-notch. The controls are fantastic. The story is an A-tier story for me because, again, like I said, I did not like Raiden. That much and stuff like that. And boss battles were good. I still think Metal Gear Solid had the better boss battles, but I enjoyed every character. Again, I like Solid Snake. I thought he was a good enough villain to carry the story. Ocelot doing his Ocelot stuff, betraying that guy, and that one that's like way in the fucking corner. They still had Johnny from Metal Gear Solid 1, shitting his pants, everything. Meryl is missing from the game, to be expected, I guess, because technically speaking, back then you didn't know if she lived or died, because, again, you had multiple endings for Metal Gear Solid. So, obviously Otacon lived, even if, like, you save Meryl and do all that, Otacon still lives. Somehow he got out of a blast, and yeah. So, but Metal Gear Solid 2, still a great game, but it's still A tier for me. Metal Gear Solid 3 is an S tier game. Again, is not better than Metal Gear Solid for me. Because like I said, my first was Metal Gear Solid. I grew up with Metal Gear Solid. Boss themes are great. Everything with Metal Gear Solid, probably like a 98 out of 100 for me. And I only have one 100 out of 100 game, in my history of playing video games. But Metal Gear Solid 3, it's really, really good. Fantastic, even. I love the jungle setting. I love that you have a little bit more freedom. I don't give a shit about the fact that I have to cut leeches and shit off, because I think that breaks the pacing a little bit. I have to heal myself. That's cool when I can just pop a simple ration and go, you know what I mean? But now you got life medicine and all that. Radar took a hit because, again, it's the 1960s. So, you ain't going to have everything you had, with these earlier titles that are set in, the mid-2000s. Big Boss, fantastic. As always, the boss, fantastic character. That boss fight is probably one of the best in the series. I love me some sniper battles too, and I failed to mention that in Metal Gear Solid, but Sniper Wolf was one of my favorite battles, both battles. I never did the Nikita trick with her. I always just played it out as a sniper rifle battle because I enjoy those. And I've beaten the end both ways. I've snuck up on him, with my pistol, held him up, did all that. And I've also beat him with the sniper rifle. And I've also done the early end as well. But, again, Metal Gear Solid 3, it's a great story. It's a great starting point for the franchise, too. You get backstory with Big Boss. Again, controls were great. Not much to complain about with it. A couple of the boss battles I didn't care for. Like, I love seeing a young Ocelot, too, and seeing how much of a bitch he was. You know, just straight up getting fucking slapped, too. So, you know, that always put a smile on my face. But, yeah. And I am looking forward to the upcoming remake, and I'm hoping it does well, so they go back and remake Metal Gear Solid 1 proper. Because I would love to go back to Shadow Moses. Honest to God, I would. Because that's going to segue into my next, you know, with Metal Gear Solid 4. But overall, dude, great characters. Volgin was a decent enough antagonist and stuff for the series. The Shagohod I didn't really give two shits about because, again, we got that more than we did anything with Metal Gear. I mean, Metal Gear only gets mentioned, a few times in the game and stuff like that. So it should be, like, you know, Shagohod solid, but that, you know, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound very good. But, you know, it was the beginning of a franchise, so I give it that. And, you know, later on we'll see more Metal Gears and what happens. I'm gonna move on though. So Metal Gear Solid 4, it is an A-tier game for me. The best part about Metal Gear Solid 4 is returning to Shadow Moses. I loved seeing Shadow Moses in HD. I loved it. When I seen that, I looked, I turned the camera overhead too. This is before the trophies were implemented for Metal Gear Solid 4 proper. I had the Gunmetal Gray PS3 Metal Gear Solid Limited Edition console back then. Sadly, I got rid of it because I traded it for a Slim because, you know, I'm an idiot. But I wish I still had that. But yeah. I mean, again, though, the controls, everything's there. Everything moves nice and smooth, fluid. The Beauty and the Beast core can go fuck itself, though. I mean, I didn't care for that too much, you know. And Ocelot, we just got more of the same with, you know, Metal Gear Solid 2. You know, obviously you find out that he was always loyal to Big Boss, all this other stuff, you know, and. Hey, what's up, Bobby? Yeah. Well, I said I was going to start doing some tier lists and stuff like that, but it's only going to be with franchises that I really love. So, and it's going to go up to YouTube and all that other stuff as well. But yeah, like with Metal Gear Solid 4, you know, it had a lot of stuff. Drebin Shop, you know, it gave you a variety of weapons, all this other stuff. I mean, it had some pretty cool things in there, you know, with Campbell and aliens and all this other shit. It's funny, this is what my list would look like. You know, it's honestly funny too, and you know, if people click on it on YouTube, I'm really hoping, I really want people to leave a comment and be like, no, Metal Gear Solid 3 is my favorite, because that seems to be the general conception that I see with Metal Gear Solid fans. However, not with me. Metal Gear Solid 1 will always be my de facto #1 game in the Metal Gear franchise. And like I said, you know, and I'm on Metal Gear Solid 4 right now. It's not going to be a long tier list or anything because I'm not getting in depth with anything. But Metal Gear Solid 4, you know, the best thing about it, again, was revisiting Shadow Moses. The graphics are fantastic. Again, it plays like a champ. You know, couple downfalls is, again, the story gets really fucking weird. You know, you have a stealth section that takes, what, 30 minutes? 30 minutes, an hour to fucking just follow this guy and wear a mask and all that other stuff. You know, and again, the Beauty and the Beast core. I mean, that's a big-ass letdown. Like, I'm sorry. You want the Beauty and the Beast core to substitute for, you know, the Sons of Liberty. You want it to substitute for Foxhound. No, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. The best sub-bosses, whatever you want to call it, is and will always be Foxhound. It's not the Cobra unit. It's always going to be Foxhound. Because those are... Hey, Bobby, thank you for the sub, man. But yeah, like, and that's one of the things that people compare. Is you got, you know, Foxhound, you got Beauty and the Beast Corps, okay. You know, you got the Cobra unit and Sons of Liberty. Out of all of them. All right, yeah, all right. I'll go back to calling you Lutz, man. But I appreciate the sub. Thanks. Thank you. But yeah, nothing's gonna beat Foxhound. Nothing will ever beat Foxhound. I just, again, people can disagree with me, but that's fine. That's what these tier lists are for. This is my opinion. But dude, just Foxhound, man. Yeah, Next Generation Forces Foxhound, even. Yeah. It's so fucking great, so fantastic. You can't beat that. It's not to say I didn't enjoy the Sons of Liberty. I did. I enjoyed Fat Man, you know. I enjoyed Vamp, you know. It's the same with the Cobra unit, you know. The End, the Sorrow, everything. Like, I think the worst boss battle out of all of the Cobra unit is fuck, I forget that dude's name. The dude with the bees, I forget his name. But I mean, I hated that boss battle. But yeah, the Pain, yeah, there we go. Yeah, Next Generation Special Forces Unit Foxhound. But I mean, again, nothing's gonna beat that. Nothing. And I mean, with future titles, again, you're not getting that. So, but yeah, Metal Gear Solid 4. Anything that is above a B in this tier 2, I would recommend playing. Again, you don't really need to play Metal Gear or Metal Gear 2 because, you know, you're going back, and especially in today's age and stuff, it's hard to go back to, and I understand that. And I would not recommend, like I said, Metal Gear Survive, nothing. Metal Gear Acid 1 and 2, don't recommend neither of them. But anything B tier and up, I would absolutely 100% recommend, especially for story. And again, controls are fantastic too. Coworker asked me what order he should play the games in. I don't know. If someone asked me if they were new to this series, I would probably tell them to start with the beginning. I would go with Metal Gear Solid 3 and Peace Walker, you know, Ground Zeroes, Metal Gear Solid 5. And yeah, it's a lot of hopping around, but I think Metal Gear Solid still, and even Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, so even though they're older games, I still think the controls hold up very well. The graphics still hold up very well. The presentation still holds up very well. So I don't think they would have much of a problem. Plus, they could also go and play the Twin Snakes if they didn't want to do Metal Gear Solid 1. It's a little bit different, but not very much. So, but yeah, I would tell your friend not to play Survive, Acid, or Snake's Revenge. Because Snake's Revenge isn't canon. So, but yeah. But yeah, Metal Gear Solid 4, everybody. Probably one of the best looking games I've ever seen, too. And I still mean that today. Graphics are just amazing. Hey, Ghost Babble's on here. Right here. Right here. It's right after the Phantom Pain. It's you can't. So the pinned images and stuff, because of how I have to do this, so I can keep the fucking ads off of here. You can't see the pinned images. So, but I'm gonna get to it. I actually haven't played Ghost Babel. I've seen playthroughs of Ghost Babel. I can't really get here. I'll put it up here because I really can't. I do want to play Ghost Babel though. I know it's supposedly like an alternate reality, or alternate dimension, whatever you want to call it, thing of Metal Gear Solid. But Ghost Babel, I would like to play once. And then there's something called Mary Gear Solid and Mary Gear Solid 2. Those are fan projects. I would actually like to play those two, and I was thinking about playing them this year around Christmas for the first time. Because both those games, I think I watched a video on them. They only take about an hour, and then the second one's like 2 hours, so it ain't gonna be very long of a stream or anything like that. Peace Walker and Portable Ops is on here. I'm actually segging over, and that's what we're gonna be doing next. Is Peace Walker, A tier game, because that's the next one that's down there. So I'm gonna go to Peace Walker next. I probably should. Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. I'm just doing a little bit of a thing on it and then moving on to the next one. I'm not, like I said, I'm not getting into developers or anything like that. Yeah. But I played Peace Walker, and that's why I put it up first, but I played Peace Walker before I played Portable Ops. And I probably shouldn't have done that, so I'm going to do these both at the same time. Portable Ops is a B tier game. Let me do Portable Ops real fast, and I'll do Peace Walker. But Portable Ops is a B tier game. I mean, some people don't consider it canon because Kojima didn't, direct it, write it, all that stuff. Technically speaking, it still is canon, and I mean it's even mentioned in Peace Walker. So technically speaking, it is canon. So I'm going to give my personal opinion on it. I did not beat it, but I got decently far in it. Again, it takes some of the stuff that you would find, the Fulton system, all that stuff, except for, the recruitment system. You got to knock them out and drag them to your truck. Which, again, and since it's a PSP game, the controls were kind of lacking. It still looked good for being a PSP game. Music was still good. Story was okay. I'm not going to say anything more about the story because, again, I didn't quite finish it. I do know what happens, but I didn't quite finish it. And technically speaking, it's the first appearance of Roy Campbell and Gray Fox. Yeah. But, yeah. Ocelot is in it. I think he's in the Portable Ops Plus, though. I think that's the only way you can recruit him. Gray Fox is null, yeah. He a super soldier, all that bullshit, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but yeah, Gray Fox is null in Portable Ops. And this is technically speaking his first appearance, timeline-wise, so Portable Ops is a poor man's Peace Walker. Oh, dude, I told you, man. I mean, I don't know a lot. I don't get into developer notes, all that kind of stuff. I couldn't tell you who composed any of the art direction. I can't name all the voice actors. These tier lists are basically what's in game. And there's still stuff that I forget too. But I do have a lot of Metal Gear up in here. And again, I'm getting older and all that other good stuff. So that's why it's kind of, yeah. And Metal Gear Solid has a lot of lore, a lot of backstory, a lot of betrayal. So some of it sometimes is hard to follow. And then you got nanomachines. But, yeah, Portable Ops, I would still say play it. Test it out, try it. Do it on an emulator, though. I feel like it runs a little bit better with the controls and stuff, with the controller and all that other stuff. Because, again, PSP controls and one analog stick was not the best. And that segues over into Peace Walker. Peace Walker had better controls, than Portable Ops. It had a better Fulton system. It had a better recruitment system. It had a better mother base system. With just everything. I mean, it was a step up of Portable Ops. And Peace Walker was a great story. I mean, Huey gets introduced in Peace Walker. You got Dr. Strangelove in Peace Walker. that's her first appearance and stuff like that. You get some more backstory. You get to see how fucking shitty Huey is, because he's just a big ass fucking, piece of crap. So, yeah. And I don't know. I'm under the... Huey's one of my least favorite characters. First game where... Let's change how the game is conducted. Right, yeah, and he changed it up. And I think when he looked at Portable Ops and saw the potential there, and was like, you know what, I want to do this. I think we can do it. And I absolutely love it. I love it more in Metal Gear Solid 5, but only because it's open. You're in an open world. You're building a base. You're actually seeing construction of this stuff. You visit your base. You're seeing everything that you're building. As where, this is a PSP game. You don't really get to see what you're building, all that stuff. But again, controls, presentation, voice acting, everything was top-notch in Peace Walker as well. It just doesn't hit that S tier for me because, again, Big Boss holds up a giant fucking machine in it, and it goes crazy. And then they have a crossover with Monster Hunter, which I do believe you're fighting a T-Rex. But, I mean, the boss fights and stuff are a little underwhelming because, okay, so you get to the end of this chapter's boss, and it's a tank. And if you want to salvage that tank, you gotta get the commander to pop his head out and then put him to sleep. And I mean, these boss battles can drag on if you're not just looking to destroy, the enemy tank or anything like that. So, Peace Walker boss battles can just drag on in those chapters. That's a good 20 minutes. Because again, you have to get that commander to pop out, and then you got to pump him full of tranquilizers to get him to fall asleep and put him to sleep. And that's only if you want to salvage the tank, or if you want to salvage, any type of machinery that the enemy has. And it just bogs the game down. It bogs the pacing down. I like the mission-based aspect to it. But again, PSP, so hardware was, lacking a little bit. Metal Gear Solid 5 did it way better. And again, I'm going to get to Metal Gear Solid 5, but when it comes down to it, I enjoy Peace Walker. I played it when they remastered it for PS3. I played it with a couple friends and stuff like that. As I was saying last stream, I love the gameplay elements, the graphics, and everything. See, Kojima's always been great with gameplay and graphics. Always. I don't think there's ever been a bad thing that Kojima has really done. And I'm not very familiar with his earlier works or anything like that. Even PT, dude, everybody was so excited that Kojima was doing it, because he was going to tell a story. And I think he would have hit it out of the park, and I think PT would have been a huge, huge win for Konami. But again, we're not going to get into that. That'll be for the Silent Hill tier list, because I'm planning on doing a Silent Hill tier list as well, and a Final Fantasy one. But I did not hear about the PSP 2. I didn't know they were even thinking about doing another handheld. So, but yeah, I mean, again, Peace Walker, it's a solid A. Again, pacing, missions, if I'm remembering correctly, his name's Zardanov, where you capture him, like, 4 different times, and he escapes every time. And then you gotta go back and get him again. And then he escapes again. And then you gotta go back and bring his ass back to jail. And it's just such a long thing to do. Oh my god. Keep it on top of the pot. Oh, no, you're good. You're good. Dude, this is a Twitch stream, just because I'm gonna upload this to YouTube too. But I don't care. This is still a Twitch live stream. So, yeah. This isn't never going to be a long video, because these are tiers, and I'm just, doing my basic thoughts and what I think about the game and how I would rank it based on, my enjoyment factor and how I, do all that stuff. I don't care if there's other stuff being talked about. Again, it's going to YouTube. My video production is not as great as other YouTubers. I will admit that. So, I am going to stream tonight. After this video, I'm going to stop this and end it. And then I am going to go back to Final Fantasy Rebirth because I got to get that finished. So, I'll be back on probably like 15 minutes after I'm done with this video. So, but anyways, Peace Walker. Go fucking play it. It's good. And good is great. And great is good. I'm going to lump these two kind of together. I'm going to talk about them both. Ground Zeroes is better than Portable Ops because it's on better hardware. However, you're buying a 2-hour demo. You are buying a 2-hour demo. That's what you're doing. Don't get me wrong, I like Ground Zeroes. I like what they did with it. I like your little section that you had to roll through, the freedom you had. I don't call it a prequel. Yeah, I call it a $30 demo because I paid full price for it when it first dropped. And, I do like the fact that if you play this and Metal Gear Solid 5 on, I think you can only do, I don't know if you can do it on PS3. But on PS4, anything you capture or anything like that, you capture soldiers or whatever, you can actually move them over to the Phantom Pain between the system. If it's on PS4, you capture them, Ground Zeroes, you can use them in Phantom Pain. How much was it? $30. I believe it was $30 when it first came out. Or 30 or 40, one of the two. But they quickly dropped it, I think, to like $20. Because, there's not a lot to do. Essentially, you're there for two reasons. That's it. You're there to essentially... It's just a very big prequel to the Phantom Pain. You're there to rescue Paz and what's his name? Nico? Is that his name from Peace Walker? I forget that little shit's name. He was a little shit, always listening to music with his headphones. But, and again, spoiler alert, he dies. And so does Paz. They both die in Ground Zeroes. So, essentially, you're going over there just to rescue these people, and they both just die. Chico. Yeah, not Nico. Chico. There we go. Yeah, I fucking hated Chico. I hated him in Peace Walker. You had the main scenario, which, again, if you're just doing the main scenario and you're not really going around exploring, about an hour and a half, maybe, 2 hours, tops, in that. And then, yeah, there was some side stuff that you could do, but not very much. And I do believe they had a Metal Gear Solid 1 mission that you could do on there, too, for, Ground Zeroes, but again, essentially, that's all you're doing. You're going to rescue this, you're going to rescue Paz, and then you go to rescue Chico, and then you take him to the helicopter, and then you get a nice long cutscene. And essentially, the game's over. Setting up the events for the Phantom Pain. Which, again, fine. Cool. It should not have been $30. No. It should have been about $15 for a demo. Because essentially that's all you're doing is putting out a demo. There's really no story to it. There's really nothing to it. Yes, you can do some things in it. You can get some weapons. You can rescue some other prisoners. And again, if you have it on PS4, that stuff can carry over to the Phantom Pain. However, again, your main mission, rescue Chico, rescue, him. You get a little bit on Skullface, and that's about it. And then Huey does his Huey shit and fucks everything up. Because Huey's a dumb motherfucker and we hate him. We do. Everybody hates Huey, dude. My least favorite character. Whole franchise. Now I can segue into this. Okay, so I am going to put it in A tier, and hear me out. It's going to be the lowest on A tier, though. Metal Gear Solid 5 looks fucking amazing. The open world structure is amazing. The backgrounds, the detail, everything is amazing. The only complaint I have graphics wise is it looks fucking like a poop stain. Because again, you're in Afghanistan, you're in the Middle East, and then you're in Northern Africa and stuff like that, and there's not much there. There's not much color there. It's essentially like a lot of deserts and shit. Outside of that, it looks amazing, and it controls the best in any Metal Gear Solid game ever. The best controls ever. And again, yes, better hardware, all this stuff. And I'm not even complaining about any of the other controls except for maybe portable ops, because those controls were kind of shit. And obviously Metal Gear 1 and 2, because again, Nintendo games. Come on, Famicom. We're going all the way back, almost 40 years now here. Best handling game, best presentation. Again, it's the same with every other Kojima directed game. Presentation, voice acting, everything is fantastic. Do I agree with Kiefer Sutherland taking over for Big Boss? No. I would still love to hear David Hayter. David Hayter is Solid Snake. David Hayter is Big Boss to me. And at first, I was sitting here thinking that they changed the voice for the Phantom Pain, at least, because that was supposed to be the big turn, that you aren't the real Big Boss. So that's why your voice is not David Hayter. It's Kiefer Sutherland. Because technically speaking, you don't play as Big Boss. You were playing as Venom Snake, who, and again, spoiler alert, who is the main boss, main villain in a very original Metal Gear game. But that's why I thought they changed the voice. And since, Ground Zeroes was a demo, essentially, that's why I think they replaced it, so they could segue into, his voice being like that. But it's not that. Don't say, yeah, that actually makes sense. That was just what I was thinking. Not confirmed. There's no information on it as far as I know. I don't know the real story for the name change. It's pretty weird considering you're bringing David Hayter back for Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta, but whatever. But Phantom Pain, it's at the bottom of A tier because the story is it's there, but it's not there at the same time. We have an unfinished product, right? And essentially, you're just seeing the rise of Venom Snake. That's all you're doing. You're not really seeing anything that has anything to do with Big Boss. So when you're fighting Skullface and his little pack rat of merry villains and shit, you're doing that as Venom Snake. Big Boss is in hiding. And yes, there's underlying story there with audio tapes and all this other stuff. You get to hear what happens to Major Zero. You get some backstory. 5 is an A. And again, that's why I said, hear me out. The story is not the greatest. Especially with like Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, 4, Peace Walker. All of them. It's not as great. But again, it's an unfinished product, so we didn't get really to see anything. We get to see a young Liquid Snake. Huh. Who knew? When I first saw Eli, dude, I was like, yep, Liquid Snake right there. Liquid Snake. Yeah. And that whole thing just essentially gets dropped too. But, again, an unfinished product. I still think it's one of the best looking games I've seen, along with Metal Gear Solid 4. Gameplay is on point. The Man on Fire, huh? I will give you this. If Volgin didn't die and they put him in Metal Gear Solid 5, I think that would have been a little bit better. But essentially, since he basically dies and gets resurrected as the Man on Fire, I don't know. It's hit and miss with me. But again, the presentation's there. But Skullface, dude, Skullface is a horrible villain, dude. Probably one of the worst mainline villains. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Volgin, they could have brought Volgin back to haunt him, even more. But make him comprehend things. Make Volgin comprehend things. Make him make sense. He's just essentially a guy who's on fire now. And the only thing he can think about is Snake. Dude, I mean, there's nothing there. There's no strategy. There's nothing with him. That's it. That's all it is. Boss fights and bosses in general in Metal Gear Solid 5 are very disappointing. The things I loved the most was building up my mother base, going to all these checkpoints, zooming in on fucking enemy soldiers. Oh, shit, that motherfucker's an S. I want that guy. Taking them down. I like the fact that if you do too many headshots on soldiers, they change. They go from regular hats to hard hats. Because you did too many headshots in the game. So they adapt it. I like that. I like that. Metal Gear Solid 5, dude, was going to be fucking amazing if it was going to be completed. It just, Kojima and Konami were doing their little dance that they did. I mean, it screwed everything up. And then again, it is what it is. So, I'll talk a little bit about Skullface. So Skullface is just essentially someone inserted in to give Major Zero a little bit more backstory. Because Skullface is the one who essentially takes Zero out. Because Zero's in a coma, or not in a coma, but paralyzed, not conscious anymore. Skullface did that to him with the parasite. That's it. Skullface was getting... He's essentially just trying to fill in some backstory with Cypher. That's more or less his arc. That's more or less his story. And again, this is what we get. An unfinished product that still had the potential to be fucking an S-tier game. And especially, too, because I don't like more modern stuff. Like Metal Gear Solid, and that's weird because Metal Gear Solid is set in 2005. And that's a modern setting. I like the fact that we go back in time. That's why Metal Gear Solid 3 is an S-tier game to me, because we're going back to the 60s, man, where it wasn't all technology and viruses and, nano machines and all this other shit. No. It was just soldiers doing their soldierly duty. And I liked that. And that's why I liked Metal Gear Solid 5, dude. I've got probably a good 80 hours in Metal Gear Solid 5. And again, the story is nothing to, write home about. It's a fantastic game. I still have fun. I still get fun factors out of it. Just with presentation, gameplay, graphics, and all that stuff alone. So, I haven't pre-ordered Delta. Again, I'm more interested in Silent Hill F than I am Delta at the moment, so... but yeah. Solid A-tier game. Go play it still. Again, anything B-tier and up, go play. Now, Metal Gear Rising... I'm going to get some hate for this, because... it's at top of B-tier. It's a Metal Gear game in theory alone, but there's very little to connect it to the Metal Gear franchise. Yes, it's set after the events of Metal Gear Solid 4, and the only thing that really connect it are I'm pretty sure Metal Gear Ray or Zeke or Metal Gear Ray. You fight one Metal Gear in it, and then you got Raiden. There's no Rosemary, there's no Raiden's kid, nothing. I don't even think Sonny's in it. I never finished Rising. I couldn't get through it. It's a decent game. I just have never finished it. I need to actually go back and finish it. But, it's essentially ninjas. Ninjas who are androids who fight each other. There's your story. And if Sunny is in it, dude, she ain't in it very long. I know Rosemary's not in it at all. But yeah, I mean, it's your typical hack and slash. I mean, boss battles were fun, fast and exciting. Graphics were still good, you know. I'm not gonna say anything really bad about it. But again, like everything B tier and up, there's not much that I have to say bad about the franchise. Each game, with the exception of maybe Metal Gear Solid 1 and Metal Gear Solid 3, each game has like multiple faults to it. You know, even Metal Gear Solid 1 and Metal Gear Solid 3, they both have a couple faults each. You know? I mean, again, Rising, you know, it's still a good game. I'm still going to say, go play it. Just to me, it's not specifically what I was looking for. Because, I mean, we see Raiden's evolution. Look what he goes to, man. To being a basic bitch-ass child soldier who whines and moans and does goofy shit in Metal Gear Solid 2. So Metal Gear Solid 4, you know, where he's fucking throwing geckos while doing breakdance moves with his fucking legs, man. Come on. And then the shit he does in Metal Gear Rising. Like, dude, cutting people to pieces. You know what, dude? He's basically doing what Trunks did to Frieza in Dragon Ball Z. You know, cutting him up, and then he's like, oh, bam! Oh, dead. Boom. All your particles gone. Are you saying that for Rising? So, actually, I gotta correct you on that one. I did see that there was supposed to be another Kojima game, and I can't remember where I seen it. This wasn't even, it isn't even Metal Gear Rising. I do know what you're talking about, though. There was supposed to be a game that was rumored right around 2000, I think 13, after Rising came out. No. Hold on, I'm gonna get to that point. But yes, there was supposedly a game that was supposed to be on the table for the Boss and her Cobra unit, set even before Metal Gear Solid 3. Now, Rising was actually meant to be Raiden, but it was meant to be, or set after 2009. At the end of Metal Gear Solid 2, it was supposed to show what Raiden was doing in between Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear Solid 4. And it was supposed to show us how he went and rescued Sunny, and how he basically became an android, all that shit. But then they were like, nah, because you know what? Metal Gear Solid 4 wrapped up the story, so we don't need it. So they ended up turning it into a sequel to Metal Gear Solid 4. Well, kind of a sequel. I mean, it's set after the events of Metal Gear Solid 4, but that was the original story for Rising, and honestly, I would have liked to have seen that. That would have been pretty cool, because you have, from the end of 2009, which is when Metal Gear Solid 2 ends, 2009, to 2014, which is when Metal Gear Solid 4 takes place, you have 5 years in between that stuff. Whereas Metal Gear Solid 1 was 2005, the start of Metal Gear Solid 2 was 2007, so you only had that little 2-year gap, but you have 5 years. You know, I would have liked to have seen that, and I probably would have put it as an A-tier game, considering it would have been more in line with the Metal Gear Solid universe. But again, it is what it is, and they handed, you know, development was handed off to, I don't even remember the development team for them, but, you know, and the story got changed, and it was the sole focus on Raiden. Which, again, is fine. You know, it's fine. I'm not going to knock it. I'm not going to be like, hey, don't go play this game. But, to me, you know, more or less not a Metal Gear Solid game. I still loved it. I still think it was great. I just need to finish it. Oh, no, you're good, dude. You're good. You are good. But yeah, with that being said, there are a couple other games that aren't on this list that, like I said, Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 2, They are fan-made projects made in like the mid-2000s that are worth looking at. I want to look at them at some point and stuff when I actually set my PC up instead of the PC I'm using. I do want to play those as they are Christmas games themed with Metal Gear. So I'm going to play them, I think, maybe this Christmas. But I heard they're pretty decent for being fan-made games. So, and Metal Gear Babel is another one I'd like to try out. Like I said, it's not very long or anything like that, but I would still like to do it. I will never ever touch Metal Gear Survive, Metal Gear Acid 1 or 2, and I'm not going to play Solid Snake because, again, it's, you know, it's not a Kojima game, it's not canon. So, this is my tier list. So for S tier, again, Metal Gear Solid 1 is my second favorite game of all time. All time. Only behind Final Fantasy VII original. So Metal Gear Solid 1 and Metal Gear Solid 3 is an S tier game. Go play them. Fantastic. A tier games, Metal Gear Solid 2, Metal Gear Solid 4, Peace Walker, The Twin Snakes, and Metal Gear Solid 5. Again, all great games too. All great games too. B tier, Rising, and you know, and again, I'm probably going to get flack for that one, but Metal Gear Rising, Metal Gear Ground Zeroes, you know, 2-hour demo, and Metal Gear Portable Ops. Everything B tier and above, I said it earlier, I'm going to say it again. B tier and above, play those games. They all have a uniqueness to them, and they are all good to fantastic games. So, again, each one of them has flaws. But if we sit here and nitpick, then you know what? A fantastic game turns into a bad game. And, you know, that's not what it's about for me. It's about, you know, playing my games and having fun with it. C tier, Metal Gear 1 and 2. Again, I never had finished these games. I've played them both in the mid-2000s. First time I ever played them. I have never finished them, but I do know the stories to them. I do know how they end. You know, and again, you have a lot of your characters in Metal Gear 1 and 2 that you see in Metal Gear Solid. You see in Metal Gear Solid and After. So, that's the great thing about them, is they introduce us to all these great-ass characters. And honestly, Konami, if you ever have the chance to, say, I want you to go to Kojima and be like, Kojima, I want you to consult on this, but I want to remake Metal Gear 1 and 2 and put it on modern day consoles, because I would love to see these games running in modern day, you know, graphics, all that other stuff. So, and that's with Metal Gear 1 and 2. I think if Delta does very well, I still would love to see a Metal Gear Solid 1 remake, and then I want to see a Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2 remake, because those would be fucking awesome. Metal Gear 1 and 2 was 5. Imagine that. This is why I want my Metal Gear Solid 1 remake. Hold on, no, I'll get to that. But the games I haven't played, I do want to play Metal Gear Babel. I'm never going to play Survive, never going to play Acid 1 and 2, or Snake's Revenge, for reasons I mentioned earlier. So, this is my tier list for Metal Gear. Again, fantastic franchise. Go play it. On that, I'm going to end with this note. So, Metal Gear Solid 1, if Konami ever does decide to remake it, I hope they do. And I hope they make it just a smidge more open, because that would be so fucking badass, dude. So fucking badass. You know, and that's the thing. I'm hoping for a Metal Gear Solid 1 remake. I think it's going to happen. I think they're going to go the Silent Hill route with it. And they're going to see how Delta does first. And then I think we're going to get a Metal Gear Solid 1 announcement with the team who worked on Delta to work on Metal Gear Solid 1. However, again, Metal Gear Solid 1, the greatest of all time. No one can tell me any different. Nothing. So, yeah. But with that being said, I am done with my tier list. I will be posting this up to YouTube. So if you are seeing this on YouTube, hey, give me a like or give me a follow or subscribe, whatever it is over there. Be much appreciated. Leave a comment. Tell me why Metal Gear Solid 3 is way, way better than Metal Gear Solid 1. I would love to see what some people have to say about that. All of that stuff. So, yeah. But again, I am out. Again, thanks for watching, hanging out, Bobby. I'm going to go to Rebirth here in about 20 minutes after this, so I'm going to end this video now. And like I said, it'll be going to YouTube. So, again, like, subscribe, and tell me again why Metal Gear Solid 3 is better than Metal Gear Solid 1. I would love to hear it from some, fans and stuff out there and stuff. But let's keep it friendly because both games are both S-tier games for me. So, yeah. But with that being said, I am out of here. And again, thanks for watching. And, yeah. Have a good rest of the... Well, have a good one, I guess. Take care, everybody.